All right, what's going on, everybody? Glad y'all can get in with us. We finna get ready to have some fun. We finna get ready to talk another position in the draft. We're gonna talk offensive line. So that's coming up in just a moment. And as y'all can see, we also got some news about Tennessee State University. One of our own is now the head coach of TSU. So we're going to get right into that. So make sure y'all share this show out to everybody. We're going to have that up in just a bit. And we're going to get ready to get started right here on Titans and Truth. Hope everybody having a good night. And we about to have some fun. Let's get it.
Don't worry about it. See, we got this here. It's a brand new dance and it's about to go live. Titan, Nashville, rep the 615. Push the Titan 2 step to the right. Then you Titan 2 step to the left. Blue jerseys everywhere. Game face, yeah, we got it on. Sticking out our chest. People know that like it's King Kong. Count that. It's about to get her up. Here come the train, y'all. Tennessee Titan up. Let's get Titan up. Tighten up. Let's get Titan up. Sticking out my chest. We know that like it's King Kong. Sticking out my chest. We know that like it's King Kong. Titan 2 step to the right. Then you Titan 2 step to the left. Sticking out my chest. We know that like it's King Kong. Sticking out my chest. We know that like it's King Kong. Third down, come on.
Good evening, Titan Nation. How's everybody doing? Welcome into a brand new edition of Titans and Truth. I'm your man, Chris, a.k.a. Blue Enforcer, and we are going to have a very great episode on this evening. Hopefully everybody doing all right tonight. Hope everybody can hear me good. Trying to make sure we got some good sound coming on in here. So make sure everything is all right. But as more of y'all come on in here, make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. Make sure you also follow on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. And definitely make sure y'all share this show out. I'm actually doing that as we speak, making sure I share this out to everybody as the show is going on and everything. So I got a special guest to bring on for this edition. If you haven't heard of him, get to know him. Get to know this man because he does know a lot about the Tennessee Titans. He's a friend of mine, a friend of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me bring in my guy from the 615 podcast. I bring in my friend, Mr. Lee Hillis. Lee, welcome into the show. How's it going? I've been on your podcast a couple of times. Welcome into Titans and Truth.
Thanks, Chris.
Glad to have you aboard this evening, have you on. We got quite a bit to get into, and we hope you're ready, man. You doing all right?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, hey, we keep it short and sweet. Let's do that. Definitely. And I see we got Herman. I said, what's up, Herman? We got King Isaac. What's going on? Let's Tighten Up podcast is going to get into what we about to talk about. Some of my guys from Memphis. We got Titan Mafia up in here. What's going on? We got Hakeem up in here. More of you will start coming in as the show starts, and we're going to get right into what is going on. And the first thing that is happening is we got some local news coming out of the Ville, out of Nashville, and it is simply this. We have a new head coach at Tennessee State University, and that guy is the one and only legend himself, Eddie George. He is now the new head coach of the Tennessee State Tigers, and this was made official yesterday, as the former coach, Rod Reed, his contract was not renewed after the spring season was over, so they decided to go ahead and bring Eddie George on as the head coach. And I'm telling you from my personal experience, this is a great move for TSU to bring in a big time name like an Eddie George. That's going to help with recruiting. That's going to help with morale with TSU, and also the big event that happens here in Memphis, the Southern Heritage Classic, has gotten a whole lot more interesting now with Eddie George with TSU. You got Deion Sanders coaching Jackson State. Let's just say that game has got a lot more popular. So people not just going to be going out there to tailgate. They might just be actually trying to go to the game this time to watch some football. So that's something that I'm looking forward to. Lee, now I know you may not be as familiar with Tennessee State as I am, but when you see that Eddie George is now at a local university, what did you think about that? Or if any, if you know any knowledge of this situation, what did you think?
Well, when the news broke, like, I was pretty shocked knowing that how much Eddie has on his plate dealing with Broadway and everything else on his plate. So it was, and plus, in my mind, it's a good hire for TSU. They're getting a
I
guy that
agree.
loves the game.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I mean, like you said, loves the game. He's gonna bring some morale to TSU, bring a lot of popularity, probably bring a lot of alumni money to the university as well. So that's gonna be it's a pretty big deal. It is a very big deal that this move has happened with Eddie George now being the head coach of TSU, because again, a lot of the big games like the Southern Heritage Classic, whenever they go on the road and face other teams in bigger cities, it's going to be interesting now because you got that big name at in the fold. Same with Jackson State with Deion Sanders. I mean, big name is going to eat. That's more marketability. That's more marketability, more attention being drawn to the school, and in the university's mind, more money coming to the university. That's going to be the main, for the university. That's what they're thinking. A lot of money is going to come there from the boosters, from the alumni, and things like that. So that's going to be a very important thing with that. I'm happy for him getting the job there. Excuse me, and I'm gonna be excited. So, and yeah, now I do agree with what you said, Lee. With what he's done with Broadway and things like that. He
As you
has
were
a young.
talking about money, as you were talking about money, speaking of Dion, when
Mm-hmm.
he showed up at Jackson State, nine
Mm-hmm.
days after they announced his hire,
Yep.
I think they had like several, like I think it was like 9.6 million fundraised.
Yeah. Exactly. And there was some. I want to say there was some recruits who were going to other schools that decided to um change their letter of intent and go to Jackson State simply because he's there. So I mean, like you just said, fundraising is
Yeah,
going to be a lot easier now for TSU because of that name alone. And so we know, you know, I and we know how much Eddie George means to the city of Nashville, and it's it's huge. It is
and
absolutely huge.
as I said, because Corey Curtis and Emily Proud on Sports Extra yesterday, they were talking about the hire, and I literally popped in the comments and said exactly what the Titans were looking for. when they hired Vrabel, which was a leader of men. And that's what Eddie is.
Exactly. Exactly. I could not agree more with that. I mean, I just think that that is it is. He's a leader of men, and that's something that is
And not
going to shape this university for the future.
and not to forget to mention his coaching staff that's coming with him. He's got
Yeah.
Jeff Fisher as a senior advisor.
Mm-hmm.
He's got Jeff Fisher's son as a defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
He's got Hugh Jackson as his OC. He's surrounding himself with professionals.
And yeah, and like you said, and even Ray Lewis might be coming aboard possibly. So, this is big for them. And we
Possibly.
got my guy Ken Moore, K Moore Sports saying tighten up. Congrats to Eddie. Definitely congratulations to him. Jameson comes and says, add a Tennessee Titans fan. Very happy for Eddie George on this new coaching job. They just got him they just got wishing him the best, hoping for the best. So that's definitely something new. Definitely congrats to him on that. I mean, I love the move. I do. I love the move. I think it's great. I'm glad he's got it. And it's going to be interesting. That much is a fact. So once again, Eddie George, former running back, should be future Hall of Famer, is now the
Yeah.
head coach, at Tennessee State University, leading the Tigers, leading Big Blue. And I have a lot of friends that are TSU alumni that are probably excited to death about this particular move. So
And there was
I'm
one
definitely
thing that
happy.
I said. There was one thing that I said also yesterday. I said that if Steve was still alive, he would be right there with Eddie.
You
He would be
know,
right there.
I
He would
would
be
not I would not disagree with that. I would not
because
disagree with that.
because Steve and Eddie were like yin and yang.
I agree. I agree with that. I mean, well, I don't know. Steve might have went back to Alcorn State. Now, if Steve went to Alcorn State, man, you talking about a network. You talking about a network for the SWAC and for OVC. That would be awesome if that were the
Yeah.
case. Hate that. I hate that Steve's not alive, but I think he's smiling down, and he's smiling down happy, for Eddie George. I would think that he is. So once again, Eddie George, the new head coach of the TSU Tigers, and just definitely proud of him for that. In other news, yeah, Mr. Titan, I agree with that. Steve would have went back to his college. His brother coaches there. So yeah, I think Steve would have went back to Alcorn. He would have went back to Alcorn, but it would have been interesting. That much would be a fact. So shout out to Mr. Titan. Again, y'all make sure y'all check him out. Had the interview with Mike Keith last week. So he definitely did something great with that. So I don't know if he's going to be doing the hype videos anymore. I hope he does. I hope he still does do the hype videos. I would look forward to that. But in other quick news that we had going on, we're going to make this real quick because it's not really much to talk about. It's the fact that Jadeveon Clowney will now be a member of the Cleveland Browns. He did a 1-year deal that could get him up to $10 million for this upcoming season. Unfortunately, because we still gained more than we lost, which is about neck and neck at 4. There's not a compensatory pick right now in our future for next year's draft at this moment, even with Clowney signing with the Cleveland Browns. Now, if Daquan Jones happens to sign elsewhere, then maybe that could kind of tend to lead us in that direction. But for right
Yeah.
now, it's not looking like we're going to get a compensatory pick, even though we've lost Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith. But when you hear of this signing of Jadeveon Clowney going to the Browns. What were your thoughts?
Thank God he wasn't coming back here.
Yeah, not for that amount of money anyway.
Because last year we gave him what, 1 year, 12 million.
I want to say 12. That he could have gotten up to 14, I want to say.
So
So,
last year Cleveland offered him more than what
yep,
we offered him last year. So he
that's
took a
true.
pay cut. He took a pay cut just to go to Tennessee to play with Vrabel.
That's true. And, Ken Moore, and Ken was the first to break it, saying that it was very unlikely that Clowney was coming back, and it reigned to be
Yeah,
true. It was true. Ken Moore broke it first. He was the one that broke when Clowney was interested in coming here in the first place. So, I mean, shout out to Ken Moore, and he was right. But, I mean, as much as I thought I would have been okay with Clowney, the fact that he signed elsewhere, I'm not. I don't think anybody's crying about that at all. I mean, it's okay. It's okay. We're fine. So
we
no need
can
of
move on from that. We can move on from Clowney.
exactly.
We got
Exactly.
a we got a we got a better edge rusher in Bud Dupree.
I agree with that. And Jay Porter saying, let's go tighten up. We got Jameson says, good luck, Browns, with Clowney. We'll see if he makes it through a season. And so we also got Pete Tamala saying, what's up? What's up with you, Pete? And everybody, thank y'all for joining. Make sure y'all share the show. Let everybody else know what's going on so more people can get in here. Make sure y'all hit that thumbs up. Hit that like button. Smash it. I want 40 likes tonight. So let's make that happen. Let's get more people in here. But now that we've talked about that, let's get to what we were really here to talk about, and that is the draft. So the draft is from tomorrow. It is exactly 2 weeks away from tomorrow.
Yeah.
2 weeks. We're getting close to when the Titans are actually going to be on the clock. And so again, here are the needs that I have. I've talked about corners already. If you haven't seen any of the draft shows, you go back and take a look at those. I've already talked about corner. I've talked about wide receiver. We've talked interior defensive line already. We talked about pass rusher. We're going to talk next week about tight ends, and I may even throw in a few backup quarterback possibilities as well. But we'll talk tight ends and quarterbacks next week. And this week, we're going to be talking offensive line, mainly tackle, because the only center that I see that we could probably go for is a Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma, or maybe even a Quinn Menares. I can't get his name right. I want to say he's from the University of Green Bay, Whitewater. I want to say
It's a Wisconsin Whitewater,
Wisconsin Whitewater. Thank you. That's the right
and
one.
he's number
Nope.
3 on my list.
Yeah, so I like that. Trey Smith is another from Tennessee. He's a possibility, but I've been mainly focusing on the tackles because that's the bigger need, in my honest opinion. So Mr. Titan says smash it. So y'all follow Mr. Titan's lead. Go ahead and smash that button. Go ahead and smash that like button and help a brother out. We're almost there to 1,000, so y'all can help me out there, and I'm gonna keep bringing some more content for you. But let's get right into the offensive tackles and some of the guys that I like with that. So we're gonna go from 5 to 1 as far as the offensive linemen are concerned. And give me just a moment. I got one more that I need to bring up that I did not have, that's not listed. So I'm trying to bring him up now. Give me just a minute. And so I think y'all stick with me. I know Lee looks like he's having a small technical difficulty at the moment. But okay, there he is. He's back. He's back right there. And so we're gonna get into that. And this is the list of the tackles that I have. And so I have my dark horses are guys like Alex Leatherwood from Alabama. We got guys like Spencer Brown from Northern Iowa that looks pretty good. Jackson Carman, that's from um, that is from I'm sorry, from Clemson. Stone Forsyth from Florida. Brady Christensen from BYU. And then we also got a James Hudson from Cincinnati and Deontay Smith from East Carolina are some dark horses. But let's start off with my number 5 offensive tackle on my list, and that is Liam Eichenberg from Notre Dame, 6'6", 302 pounds, out of Notre Dame. You last saw him in the game with Notre Dame facing off, I believe, against Alabama, where Alabama kind of beat them down a bit. But one thing about him that I do like is he does have good hands. It's a pretty good pass blocker, and does have a high motor. However, he does tend to be a little stiff with the heavy feet and is not as quick off the ball. And you do need that in the run game when it comes to that. So, Lee, talk to me and what you think about Liam Eichenberg, which there are mock drafts that have him going either late in the first round or somewhere in the second round with that. So what do you think about Liam Eichenberg, and where did you have him on your list?
Well, as you're saying, yeah, as an offensive lineman, you have to have good hands, everything. Sadly, I didn't have him.
And speaking of which, since since I have my list here, and I'll be going over those guys, who's on your list that maybe I'm not mentioning?
Well, there's two guys on your list I do have, and it's Alex Leatherwood and Jalen Mayfield.
Okay. And
I have both of them. I said, with Alex Leatherwood, of course, he's huge. He's 6'5", 315. He ran a 4.9640. For offensive tackle, the average 40 is a 5.34, and he ran a 4.96 at his pro day.
Mm-hmm.
He's smooth in pass protection. He's smooth. He has smooth hands, and he has smooth footwork. My cons with him, he needs to work on his run block. He needs to.
Yeah.
And he also needs to learn how to really set that edge.
Now, I will say this with Alex Leatherwood. I almost had him in my top 5, but he just came right outside of it. And I go back to the Senior Bowl, watching him in one-on-ones. Quincy Roche whooped him consistently in some of those practices, and he struggled against very speedy pass rushers. He was kind of late getting his kickstand, his kickstand when he was kind of getting back into his pass blocking stance, and so Quincy Roche was able to easily get around him, and that tape from that Senior Bowl, it really stuck with me in my mind. It really stuck with me with that. Alex Leatherwood could probably become a very good offensive lineman. It just, that tape from the Senior Bowl, from those practices, it turned me off with him, to be perfectly honest with that. And I see. What's up, AZ
I had
Mick? What's
a
going on?
tie.
I'll go ahead.
I had a tie for. I had a tie for first, which was Leatherwood and Mayfield.
Ah, very interesting. Very interesting.
And of course,
And
I did. I went. I went above and beyond with this. I went ahead and did an NFL comparison.
okay.
I said Leatherwood, looking back at what he did over this last season at Bama and into late last year, I said Jonathan Ogden.
Very interesting. A very interesting comparison. Don't know if he's there yet, but Ogden is the measuring stick, being a Hall of Fame offensive lineman. So we're definitely gonna see if Alex Leatherwood can come up to that. And we'll definitely talk more about that. And I know there's a lot of fans out there that are terrified that the Titans might pick an offensive lineman in
In
round
the first
one.
round.
In the first round. Now, remember, everybody, I'm going from 5 to 1. So Liam Eichenberg is my number 5. Leatherwood and some of those other guys are outside of my top 10. Now, it's outside of my top 5. Lee, may differ from that. And so Mr. Titan, of course, comes in and says,
that's somewhat how I
yeah.
set it up. I had my three. I had 3 outside of my top 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went 5. I went 5 through 1.
Right. I got you on that one. So who was your number 5?
Trey Smith. Because he can play guard and tackle.
Okay.
He's
I like
versatile.
that. I like that with Trey Smith. And we know for a fact that Vrabel and J-Rob were at Tennessee's pro day.
They worked.
They did. Yep. They were at his pro day. And they definitely worked with him.
And I looked at like some highlights coming out of high school and into UT. Coming out of high school, he was a 5-star recruit. He was, I think, one of the top 5 offensive linemen in the state of Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
He smothers defenders. He pancakes defenders on almost every play. His length is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the comparisons they did was Quentin Nelson.
I could see that. I mean, I think Trey Smith does have some potential to be really, really good and could be a steal somewhere later in the draft. And so
I'm thinking maybe second or third round.
I could probably see third round, and obviously Philip Maddox agrees with you and says, truth, I think Trey Smith should be on your list. I know most think that he's a guard, but he's more of a swing tackle like Justin Carmen. Both can play both positions. So I could definitely see that. And I like Trey Smith. And I saw him more as a guard than of a tackle. But if he can play tackle too, I mean, hey, I welcome that with open arms. And so I'm definitely down for that.
Coming out of high school, he played tackle.
Yeah. And I think that's what they were thinking.
At USJ.
And I want to say, I think that's what they were thinking about putting him when he first got to Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Is at tackle. So Trey Smith could definitely be a steal. So, hey, if y'all are out there, y'all think of a tackle that I should have had on the list, hey, call me out on it. We're about accountability. So, definitely.
My number 4, I had another Bama guy, Landon Dickerson, the center.
Now, as far as interior offensive lineman, and I really didn't get into the interior like that, Landon Dickerson is a name that has come up and is a very interesting name at that.
He's slow, but he's physical. He ran a 5.44 at his pro day.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's the average. Because the low end of his 40 was 5.34.
Yeah.
The high end was 5.55.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
He's 6'5.5", 330. He's physical. He's smart.
I like that. I definitely like that. I mean, we like physical players, and as Mr. Titan would say, J. Robin Vrabel loved players who could play multiple positions and be effective, and that's
That's
true.
true.
You gotta have versatility and multiplicity. That's something that Vrabel goes crazy about. That's just what he loves. Now, my number 4 tackle on this list is Dylan Reduns from North Dakota State. I kind of liked a little bit of his tape coming out as well. 6'6", 301 pounds. I do like the fact that he's very athletic. He's very mobile. He's a grinder. He's a grinder. I think he's a very good run blocker with that. Now, he does need to work on his kick slide in pass blocking and maybe needs to get a little bit stronger at the point of attack because you could be susceptible to good power guys that are defensive ends or coming off of the edge. But again, I like the athleticism of a Dylan Reduns, and any of these guys on this list could theoretically beat out a Ty Sambrailo or Kendall Lamb for the starting job at right tackle. So any of these guys could come in and start right tackle day one. Let's just preface that. But I like his athleticism. Saw him in a game against Central Arkansas, and I think I also watched him against, I want to say Northern Iowa was the team as well. And I kind of liked some of the tape that Radoon saw. Do you have any thoughts on Dylan Radoons?
I really didn't look into him, but looking at what you had listed, he sounds like a guy that could fit this offense
Yeah.
because
You got to have a guy.
we need a guy that can get upfield. So say Derek gets outside, we need a guy that can be in front of him and blocking.
Exactly. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. And that is something that he's pretty good at is definitely how motor. He's mobile, so he can get out there in the block. And that's something that you need in a zone blocking scheme. You got to be mobile in a zone block. You can't just be stiff and sitting still. You got to be able to move some guys with that. So I definitely am good with him on that. Number 3 is a guy that you mentioned earlier, and we're probably going to talk a lot about him, is Jalen Mayfield out of Michigan. 6'5", 320 out of Michigan. I think he's a terrific run blocker, extremely physical. He's athletic. Now, the problem that I do have, and I did notice this in some film in the Big Ten, he does tend to lunge a little bit at times, which could make you miss a block or two. And he may have some issues going up against very fast pass rushers. So other than that, I do like his run block ability. I like his physicality and everything. And I mean, hey, look, I like physical. I like physical, nasty maulers. Those are the type of linemen that I can get behind. Those are the type of guys that I can get behind. Intelligent is another thing. And I think with a lot of these guys, they're very intelligent in what they do. So I want you to give me a little bit more stuff about Jalen Mayfield because I know he was one of your top guys.
I had him tied at 1 with Alex Leatherwood from Bama. I looked at his tape against Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think he opted out last year. I think.
I want to say so.
So the last tape I saw was Chase Young.
Mm-hmm.
There were several times that he didn't get beat by Chase Young. He got Chase Young outside, kept him outside. But there was the thing that you were talking about lunging. Chase swam back inside,
Mm-hmm.
and the guard was too far all the way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
But most of what I saw is one, he's the most technically sound tackle in this draft.
I like that. I like
His
that.
kick step is explosive.
Yeah, and I like some of that tape too. And I do like the fact that he does get upfield. He does get upfield very well, also. And, that definitely opened up some holes for those running backs to get out
At
of there.
Michigan.
So, at
Yeah.
Michigan. Exactly. I definitely agree. And I mean, we got Jameson saying don't sleep on an offensive lineman from a small school. Nate Davis is from Charlotte, and that's true. You can't, sleep on a small school guy. And that's something that I don't like. I don't like when people will say a con against a certain player is he's from a small school
Yeah.
and there's lack of competition. I hate that. I do not like that at all.
Like speaking of Nate Davis, I think he's done pretty well.
I agree.
And as you said, he's from a small school. He did well. Another name that has done pretty well, more on special teams from Marshall, Chris Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Agree. Maybe not as great as a corner, but does help you on special teams. That much is true. And Tennessee Titan logic saying that he's leaning toward us taking a tackle early in the first round. But he does say, I know people will lose their minds, but I love good depth on the O line. That's
People
true.
will people
I,
will lose their mind.
I agree with that. I agree. People will go nuts over that. And honestly, I myself probably would too, a little bit, with the exception of a couple of guys. And Mr. Titan says we're going OT first round, then pick up a corner and wide receiver in the later rounds. He said, I mean, that could very well happen. That could definitely happen. That could happen, and people will lose their minds, and people will go nuts. Like, what the heck is J. Rob thinking? But we just don't need to make the same mistake of last year. Vet these guys.
Isaiah Wilson.
Exactly. We do not want another Isaiah Wilson. That much is true. And I really haven't heard. I mean, now again, this don't mean anything. I haven't heard anything bad out of any of these guys so far, but that don't mean anything. We didn't hear nothing bad about Isaiah Wilson, and look what then happened. So,
Well, the thing that's different right now, everything's on Zoom compared to
mm-hmm.
2019 when you were face to face with these guys.
Yeah, and which now,
And so they can put up a front basically, look
they
all
could.
nice and innocent, and then they get to the league and they just show out.
Exactly. That is very true. And let's tighten up. Podcast. Shout out to those guys. Definitely doing a great job as well. Saying that I'm all for taking best player available at position of need. If it's a tackle, it's a need. Now I agree with that too. If a tackle is the best player available on the board, okay, that's fine. But let it be the best player available. Don't just go strictly for need. If it's the best player available, despite what you need, go for that player. If the wide receiver is the best player available, wide receiver. If a corner's the best player available, corner. If a defensive lineman is the best player available, no matter where it is, go for that. And then we'll straighten out everything else later. So that's something that we have to trust in J-Rob on that.
So
and
I was watching MJD's mock draft. If you know what I mean when I say MJD.
Right. MJD, Pocket Hercules.
At 22, he had us going Gregory Rousseau.
Now, I thought about that with Gregory Rousseau back in the day. And, Rousseau was my number 3 pass rusher at that time. So I could see that. He's very raw, but I think he plays better on the inside than on the outside. So that's what I think about Rousseau. And we'll talk more about that in just a bit before we do end the show. At number 2, as far as offensive
So
tackles, I'm
you
sorry,
did
go
your
right ahead.
number three.
Oh,
You did your number three.
yours.
Here's
Yeah, I'm sorry.
my number three. I went Wyatt Davis. He
Yep,
uh
of
he,
Ohio
he's a
State.
he can play tackle too, but he's predominantly a guard like Trey Smith.
Mm-hmm.
He's dominant.
Yeah, and I like the way he shields off. Um, he shields off blockers very well. He definitely protected Justin Fields very well. For Ohio
Yeah.
State, definitely caught some tape of him and everything. So I thought that was very impressive with Wyatt Davis. I don't mind that at all.
He's an
So
effective pass and run blocker.
yeah. Now I wouldn't go
Um,
first round on him, but maybe
I'd
third
pro- I'd
round.
probably I'd probably say third, maybe late third,
Right. I would definitely say that. I
maybe
agree.
at 100.
Maybe. What's up, Daryl? What's going on? I could definitely see that.
But his 40 average between his high and low was a 5.22.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gotta be a little faster. Gotta be a little faster, in my opinion.
If
But
you're gonna keep it to Derek.
right. Exactly. But speaking of that, going to number 2 on the list, and I like the fact that you're bringing like interior offensive linemen into this as well, because it helps out with that as we are talking offensive line. So that helps me out too. But at number 2, a guy that I was kind of starting to grow on, and I wasn't sure between him and Jalen Mayfield. But at number 2, I'm going Samuel Cosby from Texas, 6'7", 309. Again, here's the theme with the lineman that I'm liking is athletic, high motor, mobile. He definitely can get out on the edge and for any type of like screens. And if Derrick Henry gets outside, if he's got a pull outside, then that's good and stuff with that as well. He's even scored a touchdown as with Texas against West Virginia. He scored one. So I definitely like his versatility, his mobility. Now, he does tend to lose balance in pass blocking, and he's more reactive than proactive. Instead of going at a guy, he waits for that guy to come to him. And he just needs to be a little bit stronger in the point of attack as well. So, there's still some work that needs to be done with him. He's nowhere near polished, but he does have a lot of potential. He has, as much as I hate to say this word, upside. He's got upside. Mayfield, Redundant, they all have upside. So I definitely like those guys on the outside. But Lee, what do you think of that? And who is your number 2?
I think that could be a good move if he's there.
I think he would be. I think he'll be there in round 2.
But who do I have it to? It's the guy you're talking about, the small school guy, Quinn Miners, the
Mm-hmm.
guard center out of Wisconsin Whitewater.
Yeah. I definitely wouldn't mind that.
6'3", 320, 496 40, and what I've read and what I've looked at through in interviews from like his coaches and everything, he works harder than anybody else in that building.
We need work
The
ethic.
coach even said the coach said he's the first one there in the morning, last one to leave.
I would like to see that. I would like to see that. I would definitely be impressed with that. I mean, he's a guy that I think he could definitely go way earlier than you expect. Definitely by
Yeah,
third round, he might be gone, but he may even go in the second round. I have heard quite a bit of noise about him, and he is very impressive. What's up, Ryan? What's going on in Titan fan? What's going on with y'all on that? So um, definitely glad to have everybody in here. Thank y'all for tuning in tonight. Thank you, Lee, for coming on in here with us from the 615 podcast. So y'all definitely make sure y'all check out his stuff, and we'll get that information in just a bit. But I could get down with that with Quinn Miners. I wouldn't mind that pick at all. But my number one guy on my board at offensive tackle is a guy that I think any Titan fan would love if they pick him. And I'm going to tell you why. Telvin Jenkins from Oklahoma State. Now, there has been some rumor that the Titans have had some big interest in him. Of course, Indianapolis has some interest in him as well. 6'6", 320 from Oklahoma State. Now, he does tend to sometimes lean on the guy he's blocking sometimes, so that means a pass rusher could kind of get inside. He may have a small issue, and I do mean small issue, against a speed rusher that does have some good hands, but other than that, the pros outweigh the cons with this guy. I mean, if you take a look at a picture of him not playing football, he looked like a light-skinned Urkel with the glasses on. But again, do not let that look fool you. This dude is nasty in every sense of the words. He is nasty, aggressive, plays angry. I mean, this kid plays like, I saw some tape. A guy was basically coming and saying, he basically plays like he's offended at the guy that's playing across from him.
It sounds like
it. He sounds like, dude, why are you even trying me? Like, there was a play I watched against Texas. He took this guy and mauled him all the way out of bounds. And guess who that player was? That guy from Texas is a guy that I think is one of the best pass rushers in this draft. Joseph Osai. He dominated him. And I love Joseph Osai as a pass rusher. And Telvin Jenkins made him look like a fourth stringer. Has excellent hands, knows how to gain leverage on a guy. He knows how to seal off a guy so well. He knows how to basically take any guy out of the play. And I mean, does it in run game, does it in pass game. I love any guy that plays nasty. Put him on the right side, put Taylor Lewan on the left side. I couldn't think of two nastier offensive tackles. And there are some that would say Telvin Jenkins at 22 is better than Jack Conklin at 8.
Yeah, that would definitely be a big help if we had somebody that's not afraid to punch you in the mouth.
Exactly. And that's something that I'm a major fan of. I mean, I like a guy that's aggressive. As long as you play smart, you play aggressively smart. Don't play so aggressive that you get penalties.
Like Jack Conklin. Conklin played smart.
Yes. He was aggressively smart. He played from whistle to whistle.
And of course, I still have my 3 dark horses on the board.
Now, who was your number one guy?
Kendrick Green from Illinois.
Very interesting. I never heard the name. Tell me about him.
He's a center, and he can also play guard.
All right. I hear you off of that. I hear you on that one.
He's technically sound. He's physical. He's versatile. I looked at his tape against Northwestern. He gave up a goose egg. He gave up 0 sacks against Northwestern. He ran a 4.88 40, so he's quick.
Mm-hmm. So So he's your number one offensive lineman, period.
On my dark horses, yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Now, who is your number one overall lineman?
Well, of course, there was a tie for first between Alex Leatherwood and Jalen Mayfield.
Oh, that's right. You said Alex Leatherwood and Jalen Mayfield. That's right. You did say that. So, in speaking, and let's go to the dark horses a bit. And before we do that, James says, nasty and angry. That's what I like to hear. I like to hear that too. Man, I agree. I like a nasty, angry offensive lineman. I don't mind
like
that at
Lewan.
all. Like Taylor Lewan. And he also mentioned Shades of Big Country, David Stewart. David Stewart was nasty.
Like Lewan is David Stewart 2.0.
Yeah. Telvin Jenkins might be 3.0. So we definitely could see about that. But in talking about your dark horses, who are some of your other dark horses that you had?
And of course, this is a school I know we want to stay away from, but as TD said, don't blacklist the school because of one kid. And I've heard you say that quite a few times. I went Ben Cleveland.
I would say that will be Georgia.
Yes.
All right. Talk to me.
Oh, I was looking at his 40. There's a name that you should know. Tristan Wirfs.
I do know that
played
name.
At Iowa. Played at Iowa, drafted by Tampa. He tied Wirfs 40 at a 4.85.
Wow. That is good. And Tristan Wirfs win the first round, and he won a Super Bowl ring.
Another thing I said, this guy could fill in if needed.
Yeah.
Like say that. If Saffold or Davis go down.
Agreed.
He's huge. He's 6'6", 354.
Ooh, that's a big dude. That's a big dude.
His wingspan is 79 inches. His arm length is 33. His arm length is 33 inches, and his hand size is 9 3/4 inches.
Now that's impressive. That's definitely impressive. And with that, I do like that.
And of course, I did a comp on him. I put two Titans players that, of course, size and physicality. I said it's a mix between Dennis Kelly and Taylor Lewan.
Definitely could get down with a Taylor Undertaker type mixture. I could get down with that.
I only had 3. My number 3, this guy, he went to Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at it, and he was one of their top 25 most important players.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Aaron Banks.
Okay.
The guard out of Notre Dame. Like some of the other guys, he's effective when it comes to run blocking. But he needs work on pass blocking, and he needs to stay square. Those were the 2 big things I didn't like.
Yeah. Agreed. I definitely can see that. And speaking of my dark horses, obviously I have Alex Leatherwood right out of my top 10, out of my top 5. I do like Spencer Brown, tackle from Northern Iowa. I definitely like him a lot. I looked at a little bit of his tape. I was very impressed with how he was able to shield off his blockers and was able to open holes and is able to move and is able to work. I definitely like that. Stone Forsythe of Florida is a dark horse guy because I remember, and if y'all haven't watched the Truth League report, go back and watch that with Goat House, who is big in the NFL community. We were talking about Stone Forsythe. He was one of his sleepers in this draft. A very versatile offensive lineman out of Florida. Braden Christensen, I know, is a guy that the Titans are interested in out of BYU. Deontay Smith from East Carolina. TD has raved about this kid. raved about him, had him on talking with TD. I want to say about 3 or 4 weeks ago, he had him on. And basically, you could tell the guy loves football. He loves ball. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Because TD will find out if you like ball or not. Because he'll chop it up with anybody. And so Deontay Smith is one of my dark horses. I like him a lot as an offensive lineman.
And speaking of guys that love ball, that's all Vrabel and J Rob want are guys that love ball.
Exactly. And Philip Maddox, and Philip, you're talking about a tape I did get to watch it. That was one of his bad reps was against Ronnie Jenkins. And that's why I said that he could have a small issue against faster pass rushers who know how to use their hands. Ronnie Perkins did shake up Jenkins a little bit on one rep, definitely. So, against quality guys, he could have an issue here and there. I mean, I think any lineman is going to get beat every once in a while. And yeah, he did dominate Osai big time. But any offensive lineman could be beaten at any point in time, So you do have to take that with a grain of salt. That's going to happen. And this offensive line class is very deep at both tackle and interior. So you can get a quality starter within the first 4 rounds. You could get depth within the first 6 rounds. You could get some depth. So what's up, Ryan Dodd? What's going on with you? Ryan saying, hey, the more I'm hearing it, the more he looks at Telvin Jenkins, he likes the kid. Very deep. I like it too. He can, and there's something happened with Taylor Lewan. Ty Sambrello could go to right. Telvin Jenkins can slide to left. So either way, we got depth. And so that's the things that I do like about this offensive line class. And I just think is tremendous. So I'm okay with this offensive line class. Now, I don't think, again, if it ain't Telvin Jenkins, I ain't going to like an offensive lineman in the first round. But if it's Telvin Jenkins, I'll be okay with that. I'll deal with that. So that's just me.
Well, as you were saying about Jenkins, it's us and Indy. But there's also 2 more teams talking in on it. And it's the Steelers and the Jets.
Mm-hmm. And so you got to be careful.
One of those 2 could jump.
Yep. I was just going to say that.
And one thing, because I think I'd seen about what the Titans could do before the draft. Talk about trades and signings. One name that really jumped out at me was,
I think I know where you might be going.
Right tackle Mitchell Schwartz.
You were in my brain. You were in my head. Exactly.
Something else that on that list that surprised me is trading Rashawn.
I'm actually down for that myself. I'm actually down for trading Rashawn.
And then right under that, it was talking about possibly trading for Anthony Miller.
I would love that. Being a Memphis guy, I would love that.
So if I was J-Rob, what I would do is I would trade Rashawn and maybe a 5th for Anthony Miller in a 4th.
I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that. That would be cool. I would be okay with that.
That's one that would help us at receiver.
Mm-hmm. That would help us at receiver. And at the same time, you're giving David Long his shot. Now that might mean you have to draft a linebacker later, for depth purposes. But I mean, I could be okay with that. And Philip comes up with the fact that I didn't put Darrisaw on my list. And here's the reason why I didn't put Christian Darrisaw on my list. And you basically said it, Philip. At first, I was going to have Darrisaw as my number one offensive lineman, but then I also thought about it thinking Darrisaw is going to be gone by the time we pick, unless we trade up, and that's what we're going for. But Darrisaw 9 times out of 10 is going to be gone by the time we pick at 22. Now, if he does slide, I could see that being the case. I could see us going for him, but I don't even think he makes it to us at 22, to be honest. I did see some impressive tape with Darrisaw, but again, I just don't see him being there at 22 for us to pick him. That's why he's not on my list. That's why I don't have him. I don't have Panay Sewell. I don't have Rashawn Slater.
I was looking at a list of the top 10 offensive linemen in this class.
Mm-hmm.
1 and 2, you could swap them. And it was Panay Sewell and Rashawn Slater.
Yep.
You could flip them easily.
You could.
Because they're both really good.
Yeah. Panay Sewell in a lot of drafts has went as high as 3 or 4, but has also gone as low as 8, as low as 7 or 8. And Rashawn Slater is there at 8 and maybe could go as low as 13.
Yeah.
And so,
to I think the Giants.
Yeah. And I mean, you got teams like the Panthers that are going to go offensive line. The Bengals could go offensive line. We know the Chargers are definitely looking at going offensive line.
Probably the Patriots
the Giants can always use help. Could I see I think the Patriots are going to go either more quarterback or they may go playmaker. They could go offensive line. I don't see it. I think Minnesota could go O-line. I could definitely see Minnesota.
What I could see New England doing is going receiver after the news that broke this week about Julian
Edelman's retirement. Yep.
So
Julian Edelman did retire.
I could see them going wide receiver right there.
I could see that too.
15.
What I would
do is I would go receiver in the first.
In all honesty, it's either going to be that or corner. I agree. And honestly, I said this in my mock draft from the Truth League report. If Caleb Farley falls to us, I'm jumping on him.
What I've seen, because we pick at 22, so I've seen Caleb Farley go at 20 to Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Or 21 to Indy.
I've seen, as I said, Farley go 20 to Chicago. 21, I've seen Greg Newsome to Indy.
And Indy would be shady like that, trying to basically one up us. Like if there's a player that we're interested in, Indy will try to take him just so we can't get him.
But you know what I would do if they do take him? I would either go one of these two guys, Terrence Marshall, which I know you like Terrence Marshall.
He's growing on me.
The second guy, if he's there, which he should be there.
Let me guess. I'm thinking he played in the same conference as Greg Newsome, I assume?
No.
Oh, so it's not Rashad Bateman.
It's A.J. Brown's. It's A.J. Brown's old teammate, Elijah Moore.
I like Elijah Moore.
Get the boys back.
I don't know if he. I don't know I think that's too early. 22, I think it's too early for him. But if it was if we traded back to say 26, I could see it.
What I've seen, like anytime I've done mock drafts, is he's usually gone around 31, 32.
Mm-hmm.
To either Tampa or KC. And speaking of the possible thought of trading Rashawn and about David Long getting his chance to start and having drafted linebacker, any
Mm-hmm.
mock draft I've done, I've taken a linebacker in either the fourth, fifth, or sixth round, and it's been the same guy, KJ Britt,
Yeah,
out of
that's
Auburn.
another guy. That's another guy TD has talked about. KJ Britt from Auburn. He's another guy that TD's talked about that could be a good fit. That could be a very good fit for this team. So I definitely like that. But we're about to get ready to get up out of here for the show, everybody. I'm thanking everybody for sticking with us on this evening. Lee, any final thoughts on tonight, and where can people find your good content?
Um, well, you can find the podcast on Spotify at the 615 on Spotify. You'll get updates on Instagram at let me find it, the underscore 615 podcast, on Twitter at podcast 615, or on my Facebook page, Lee Hillis on Facebook.
There it is. There it is on that. And for the blue bombshell of the night, I'm a wrestling fan, as most of y'all know. I definitely want to give congratulations on some history being made this past weekend. Definitely shout out to Tennessee's own, Knoxville, Tennessee's own Bianca Belair, aka Bianca Blair. That's her real name. Congratulations to her on becoming the brand new SmackDown Women's Champion.
Beating
Uh,
Sasha Banks.
Beating Sasha Banks to do it. Of course, she was a track star at the University of Tennessee, is from Knoxville, Tennessee. So shout out to her for winning the women's championship. Also, definitely shout out. I got to give a shout out to one of my fraternity brothers, Apollo Cruz, for winning the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania as well. I am a Roman Reigns fan. He kept the Universal Championship. WrestleMania was really good and everything, so I definitely enjoyed that. Let's see. Philip said EST or WWE. That much she is. She is the BEST without a doubt.
um,
Joseph comes. Yeah, Joseph comes in and says Christian Barbour going to us at 22. I wouldn't mind that either. I like Christian Barbour on that defensive line. So he can play the nose or at defensive end. So I wouldn't mind that at all. What were your thoughts, Lee?
on the episode or WrestleMania?
Just on the episode on WrestleMania, whatever you want to talk about.
Well, one thing that I didn't think would happen, Orton.
I agree. I definitely agree. I just didn't like that whole match at all. I thought it was gonna be a little bit more violent, a little bit more action than what it was. I didn't really like that. Now I forgot. I gotta give a shout out to a fellow Tennessee Titans fan, to the Celtic Warriors Sheamus winning the United States Championship over Matt Riddle, and that was a nasty bro kick.
No, so when somebody was talking about for Sheamus winning the title over Riddle, I literally went in the comments. I'm like, we need to start petition again to be the 12th time for a game.
I wouldn't mind that. I mean, Sheamus is a Nashville resident, just like Rusev is a Nashville resident, or, well, now in AEW, known as Miro, because, of course, his first name is Miroslav, is his first name from Bulgaria. So I could see that. I think Sheamus being the 12th Titan, I would not mind that at all. I think that would be a very good idea. Bianca Belair being a 12th Titan, that wouldn't be a bad idea either.
And of
So
course, some news coming out over, I think, like the last week. They're now looking for a public dress announcer.
yeah, there are some people going out for that. I hate the fact I'm not living in Nashville still. I probably would have auditioned for that if I could, but seeing that I'm in Memphis, I probably would have to do a whole lot of traveling. So
Yeah,
I mean, I do enough traveling being a season ticket holder, so I probably couldn't be making that trip 100-fold because I think with being a public address announcer, I don't think it's just for Titans games. I think it also would be for Nashville SC or any of the soccer games that do happen there.
probably.
And as well as I think some concerts. So you would have to be at Nissan Stadium a lot. I mean, I would have loved to have done it, honestly.
And then, of course, we're, I think, about 3.5 weeks away from schedule drop
I'm
because
looking
it's
forward to
dropping
that as
mid
well.
May.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that
And,
as well.
and of course, I'm already eyeballing games.
Exactly. I'm looking for all of those too. Ozzy Phillips saying we're eventually going to see Roman versus Rock. Probably going to happen soon. I could see that too. Definitely could see that. Yeah, in Hollywood in a couple of years. I could see that. Good match between Sasha and Bianca. I agree. Um, and I've been a fan of Sheamus. Whether he's a heel or a babyface, I like Sheamus. I just like that. He reminds me of what the Tennessee Titans are. He's just nasty. He is just no nonsense. He like, look, I ain't going out here to have fun. I'm going out here to just beat people up. And I love that about the Celtic Warrior. So, Lee, any final thoughts before we do get up out of here?
Well, this was fun.
I agree. I definitely agree. I've had fun with you. I'm glad I had you on the show. Thank you for coming on.
No problem.
Everybody, thank y'all for tuning in to the show. I think that's just about gonna do it. Again, make sure y'all go follow up on the 615 podcast on Spotify. Check him out on Instagram. Also on Facebook, Lee Hillis. He is in the TNT Enforcers group. So y'all make sure y'all check him out. And as always, thank y'all for tuning in. We about to get up out of here. And all we know how to do is tighten up. Good night, good people. It's been fun. Next week, tight ends and quarterbacks. And then a 3-round mock draft the night before the draft. So get ready for that. Got some great stuff on the way. Good night, y'all.